Australians, the two-time defending champions, make it 2 in a row.
After 2 races, Tom Slingsby and Australia have won back-to-back events. But Ben Ainslie and the Great Britain SailGP team are looking to put a stop to this and claim their first victory of Season 3. With a full crowd behind them, the expectations and emotions will be running high. Can the newcomers Canada continue to unsettle the old guard? Who will keep calm under pressure and who will push it too far? The first day of the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix starts now.
Welcome to Plymouth, in England's southwest, Britain's Ocean City, which this weekend plays host to the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix. It's been just over 400 years since the Mayflower sailed out of Plymouth for the New World and opened a golden era of maritime history that included hosting the likes of Sir Francis Drake and Charles Darwin. Today, the modern city's progressive future includes Britain's first national marine park, Plymouth Sound, a hotbed of conservation and innovation that this weekend is home to the most exciting race on water. Alongside Emily Nagel and Stevie Morrison, I'm Todd Harris. The Great Britain Sail Grand Prix is the third round of Season 3. 9 of the world's best sailing teams are about to go head-to-head. And if this week's practice is any guide, Stevie, it's going to be fast and furious.
Certainly been fast and furious on the Sound so far, and on board the Canadian boat, well, it was a reminder of the G-forces involved in these boats when you're turning, how fast things happen. One small slip and it can be disaster, but the safety systems on board our F-50s are such that, you know, no injuries happened. Everyone on board the boat's fit and raring to go, and I'm sure they'll be stepping lightly.
Well, enthusiastic crowds expected all weekend here in Britain's Ocean City. 6 races in all, 3 today and 2 more fleet races Sunday before the final, which will feature the top 3 teams and determine the weekend's overall winner. These are the world's best sailors racing at the most iconic venues around the world. Welcome to the greatest race on water.
What is SailGP? It's high speed, high tech, high impact. 11 global events and an intense battle between 9 nations. Identical F-50s driven by the world's best and powered by nature.
Look at those speeds, dipping into 90 kilometers an hour.
Competing on a level playing field where boat data is shared and talent actually matters. It's close to shore racing in front of sellout crowds. SailGP exists to inspire the next generation of athletes and build a better future. There are 2 podiums, one for the racing and one for impact. It's all part of SailGP's race for the future, working towards a better sport and a better planet. More rivalries, more adrenaline, more drama. Welcome to the greatest race on water.
Well, to bring you up to speed here as we get a beautiful look at the Plymouth Sound, the standings after 2 events. It is the 2-time reigning and defending champions Australia out to a big start, winning both Bermuda and Chicago. Canada and Great Britain have had good showings. They're looking for the consistency that will put them on top of the board. They sit 2nd and 3rd on points, tied on 17. Then it's the Kiwis, New Zealand, looking to turn things around here in Plymouth. Denmark, France, the USA mired down in 7th. Spain and Switzerland round out the fleet of 9. Well, the undoubted crowd favorite this week will be the British team led by Ben Ainslie. But on results to date, they will not be a shoo-in. For sure, their second and third places this season are at least an improvement after last season's disappointing fourth-place finish. But the competition in the 9-boat fleet is even tougher this season, so the required improvements have to really raise the bar. Remember, these boats are identical, so it all comes down to one thing: the team.
When Sir Ben Ainslie took over the British team for the start of Season 2, he certainly made his presence felt.
It's Great Britain and Ben Ainslie who take the first victory of 2020. Slingsby coming off second best this time.
I'm so angry right now.
And when the season restarted in 2021 after the COVID delay, he went and did it again in great style.
What a comeback. How much is that going to hurt Slingsby?
But since that win, it was a rough ride for the Brits. They pushed hard.
They've stuffed it. This could be over. Oh my God. No, the British crew have crashed.
And were at the centre of some of the season's biggest controversies and finished in 4th overall.
That's just a ridiculous call.
We didn't make the final 3 sail off. I think we certainly had the capability to do that, but we made too many mistakes. So that's something, obviously, we looked long and hard about what happened. How can we rectify that, and how do we fine-tune our approach and our performance to ensure we can get ourselves in the top 3 for Season 3. Racing at home is always very special. We want to put on a good show in front of our home crowd, of course we do.
Crowds continue to form up on the Hoe, overlooking the Plymouth Sound as we get ready for the first race under 7 minutes to go until the first race of 3 today, day number 1 of the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix Plymouth in Britain's Ocean City. Well, one of the questions that has been swirling around has been what is going on with some of the teams maybe favored from last year. At the top of the list, it's got to be Team USA. What will the Americans do this week in the UK to turn it all around?
When Jimmy Spittle took over the US team in Season 2, many thought the game was up. A legendary athlete and a powerhouse sporting nation, on paper, all the ingredients were there. But the rest of the fleet didn't take it lying down. The bar was raised and the great sailing nations duked it out for every point as the developing teams started to find their feet. Now Spittle has tough decisions to make. A nation on his back, he's already made the call to bring in Hans Henkin as the new flight controller, but it was a baptism of fire last time out in Chicago as he grappled with the demands of the role.
It's flying too high. They're going to lose control.
That is last place. This is not where the Americans want to be in their home event.
Sat in 7th in the standings, there's work to do for the Americans.
We want to keep the team together. We want to try and get some more hours, races in together, and the longer you can kind of be together as a group and operate in high pressure racing situations, the stronger you'll get.
Well, yeah, I mean, they talk about wanting to keep the team together and operating, but things just haven't gone well at the beginning of Season 3 for the US team. And, well, Rome Kirby was the flight controller in Season 2, and if you're after continuity, where's Rome Kirby now? They've got Hans Henkin taken over at flight control, a great sailor, but just at the moment, don't seem to be performing under pressure. In practice, it doesn't look too bad, but they can't put the boat in the right place when they need to, and that is showing on the results boards at the moment.
Well, it certainly makes life more difficult back on land when the results just aren't coming your crew's way. Just ask the newest SailGP team from Switzerland, led by Sebastian Schneider, with 2 last-place finishes to open Season 3. However, some very good advice is being added to their effort this week as the former driver of Japan SailGP, Nathan Outeridge, has joined them as an advisor. So we'll see how that plays out. Right now, let's check in with the 4th member of our broadcast team down on the water, Olympic silver medalist Lisa Darmanin.
Well, Todd, the conditions are looking fantastic out here, and the breeze has been building all day. We are seeing winds to be averaging 22 kilometres per hour and expecting gusts around 31 kilometres per hour. There is a lot of cloud action around, so what that means is that wind can become unstable and change direction. As the cloud approaches, the wind increases and pulls the wind direction towards it. But on the contrary, when the cloud moves through, it leaves no wind behind it. So the sailors will be looking to the sky to try and navigate their way best around those clouds. There is a small chop, but it is definitely one of the flattest venues that we've seen in a while, so I'm expecting that ride height to be pushed. We will head over to Stevie to take us through the course map so we can have a better look on what is in store for today.
Hitting the line at full speed on the foils will be crucial. It's a drag race to Mark 1. Fly the boat higher and you'll go faster, but as you arrive there, be careful, because the boats will be on the edge of control. After the mark, the fleet can split or take the shortest course straight towards Gate 2. In this much wind, the bottom of the course will be looming large in front of them very, very quickly. As they approach the gate, they have a big choice to make. They can turn left or right. The leading boats, well, they'll be looking to select the best side of the course with the most favourable wind to give them the quickest time up the next leg. The boats behind may choose the other direction to avoid sailing in the leader's disturbed wind. As they turn the boats upwind, let's remember that the sailboats can't sail straight into the wind, so they sail as close to it as they can at about 45 degrees. The winds here on Plymouth Sound are gusty and changing direction. If you can find more wind, you're going to sail faster. Every gate is an opportunity for the boat ahead to extend or the boats behind to find a chance and catch up. Another unique feature here on Plymouth Sound is the swirling tide caused by the famous Drake's Island on the left of the screen. The key to success? Well, it's getting a good start, foiling the boats high and fast, and then hopefully by Gate 6 you're in the lead to enjoy the glorious run into the finish in front of the fans on Plymouth Hoe.
Almost set to go here in Plymouth. Under 2 minutes to go until the start of the first race. Remember, 3 races today, then we'll have 3 more tomorrow, which includes the big final. So as we look out there, the conditions, Stevie, could not be much better as we are under 2 minutes until the start of this first race, which will tell us a lot.
I think we're going to learn an awful lot about the course. The crews are certainly going to learn a lot about the course, and there's been a few changes out there. We can see the New Zealand boat here, and Pete Burling and Blair Toot. Well, they've called in Joe Allais. We can see Joe at the back of the boat there. Olympic gold medalist from 2012, silver medalist in 2016, and well, there's no ignoring the fact she's one of the best female sailors on the planet, one of the best sailors on the planet, and she's come in as strategist, and I think it's just going to offer that bit of calmness, that bit of experience. We just haven't seen the results from New Zealand yet. Can Joe be the difference that we're looking for?
One minute to go now with New Zealand sitting on a 6th place in Bermuda and a 4th place in Chicago. This would be a nice time for them to turn things around here in Plymouth.
Tight tack in there underneath the French, and these racing manoeuvres are already underway here. The positioning in this final minute is absolutely crucial, and we can see as we look in on New Zealand, they found themselves some space. They'll be looking for clear wind, trying to find the shortest distance to Mark 1. Here we go, coming in on the helicopter above the fleet. There's the start line, middle of screen, Australia and USA towards the right-hand downwind end of the start line. They think that's the shortest course, but Canada away above the fleet. They found some space as the crews look to come in, lined up. Boats are foiling with 15 seconds to go. How's the timing? We're looking to see the crews come in towards the start line now. Great Britain, USA, it's going to be tight at the bottom of the line. It's all about being at speed. Australia and Slingsby are up to speed with 1 second to go. And Jimmy Spittle, he's high and fast across the start. What a start by Spittle. And look at Canada coming in at full pace. They have the fastest angle to Mark 1. And let's see who can lead.
This is the umpires, OCS penalty, Australia over the line early, no delayed starters.
So bad news for the Australians, but at mark number 1, it is Canada that came on the underneath with high speeds. The Americans, their best start all weekend long.
Great action there. Boat speed, boat speed, boat speed. The Canadians got the boat high and fast, and what a fantastic job. Back of the pack, it's Great Britain. And New Zealand, they're going to have to find something special from here, as Canada will already be thinking about the next move to set themselves for gate 2.
And look at those speeds in excess of 60 kilometers an hour. The Canadians just shooting out there. It is France that turns away first. The Americans now getting some company on the right-hand side from Denmark.
Yellow line on the screen there, Todd. That's the ley line. That suggests that Canada have now put themselves in a position to sail straight down to gate 2. Oh, something's gone wrong, though. They're sailing right across those ladder lines. Big lull in the wind, not much wind. They can't sail where they want to. All the teams trying to turn less to keep themselves fast.
Today we've got a slightly longer course than normal. This means there's plenty of room for the faster teams to stretch their legs. It means a good start today is really important because the boats in the lead are going to be fast and getting a good amount of separation.
When you talk about fast, you got to talk about Canada right off the line. They came flying out of nowhere. Jimmy Spittle looked like he had the whole shot, and then comes Phil Robertson and the Canadians. They've looked so good so far this year. They've had a 3rd in Bermuda, a 2nd place in Chicago, looking for more here in Plymouth. So it's the Canadians out in front, Denmark now sitting in 2nd, and then a host of boats coming through, with France mixing up with the Americans in 3rd and 4th.
Americans have missed their jibe again, fallen off the foils. Disaster for America. It's going to be Canada in the lead. Denmark from absolutely nowhere, and then Contant de la Pierre. Has he got room to get around the outside? It's tight. What a turnaround at the bottom of the leg, but another mistake for the US crew. This is disastrous.
They were sitting in 2nd place. They now find themselves in 7th place and dead in the water, both holes in the water. Meanwhile, Great Britain's catapulted from 6th place all the way up into 5th, moving up now into 4th.
There we go, a boat on the course. Unfortunately, that was the voice of Ben Ainslie asking for the TV boat to move out of the way. He's now found some space, though. He's up to speed, but at the moment it's Canada. The wind has shifted a long way to the left-hand side of our screen. Canada showing in 2nd, but I think they're going to be in good shape as they start to head straight up the course with this wind shift. But it's Ainslie. He seems to be finding something a little special early on in the race.
Phil Robertson and the Canadians looking very good. France picking up a penalty there, so they'll have to drop back on position. But the Americans, almost from first to worst, they had the lead at mark number 1 or close there into Canada, and now they find themselves in dead last.
Simple mistakes make a huge difference, Todd, and that was a mistake. Crew error, boat fell off the foils, disaster.
Boats to watch here are the Kiwis, Spanish and Canada, who are all averaging around 50 kilometers an hour upwind on this course now.
So the Kiwis in a good position. They found the pressure on that side of the course. Canada and Spain, with Switzerland moving in. France, Great Britain has dropped back to 6th, then Denmark, Australia, and the Americans.
It's really gusty wind out there, Todd. We can see top of the screen the New Zealand crew. They're in more wind. If they're in more wind, there should be good news for them.
No, sir. Good breeze on the stick.
Nice tack there now. New Zealand have the right of way, but we can see Canada, the wind has shifted in their favour, so they were sailing almost straight up the ladder lines. Great angle for them. Potentially New Zealand are sailing faster, but Canada are sailing a shorter distance. Let's watch now, though. This cross will be crucial. New Zealand have the right of way. Clear cross, though. Canada hold the lead, and it's going to be tight as they approach gate 3.
So Switzerland also getting into the mix now. They sit in 2nd place on distance as they go through the ladder lines. Canada, Switzerland, and New Zealand right now, your top 3. This is race number 1, and this is just leg 3.
Here we've got the live speeds of our 3 top boats at the moment. You can see Canada and New Zealand are neck and neck for speed-wise, both around 54 kilometers an hour.
Looks pretty good on board the Canadian boat at the moment. They've lined themselves up well, done a pretty nice job of sailing the wind shifts. I wouldn't have said they're the fastest boat, but they've sailed the shortest distance up this course. They're going to hold on to the lead. Going to be a left turn for them. Where in New Zealand? Here they come. Will New Zealand choose to turn one more time? Can they fit inside the French? French have the right of way. It's going to be tight as they come in here.
The near gate, one of the 2 rounding gates, renamed and branded near in recognition of SailGP's new partner. As the Canadians take that lead, New Zealand now in 2nd with France in 3rd.
Oh, it was really tight at the top there, Todd. Great move by Contant de la Pierre, though, taking this French boat up to 2nd. Great Britain and Ben Ainslie looks like he's going to be squeezed out by the Swiss team. It's tight in the pack, no room to breathe. Any little mistake's going to have a huge consequence at this stage of the race.
No host honors given to Ben Ainslie and Great Britain as the Swiss squeeze in there. So Great Britain stays in 5th. Switzerland holds on to 4th. New Zealand has dropped to 3rd, but it is still Canada. And look at the distance they're putting over France. Look at this, over 200 meters in the lead. And Stevie, you got to go back to that start. Somehow Phil Robertson found the speed and just like a bullet out of a gun with Chris Draper.
Nice and chill from here, guys. Really good shape.
Wing trimmer from Chris Draper on board the Canadian boat there. Yeah, nice and chilled from here. Well, they are in really good shape, that's right. And you're quite right, Todd. Phil Robertson on race day at the starts just seems to come out of the blocks with so much aggression, so fast. And here we go. Good manoeuvres as well on board the Canadian boat. It's going to be tight here, though. Look, Canada coming in. Now, they're on port tack. The right of way is with the New Zealand boat, who are to the right of our screen. It will be close at the bottom.
And this is why Canada are in the lead. They're 51.5 kilometres an hour faster on that previous leg, and only 2 manoeuvres.
And Canada's done enough to get past New Zealand without having an incident.
It's really, really tight here, Todd. It's going to be interesting to see what they want at the bottom. Canada set up for one more turn. They're looking for a right turn. Now, New Zealand has the right of way in this situation. New Zealand can turn inside, but it would be a lot of manoeuvres. I don't know that Pete Burling's going to want to do that. Phil Robertson judges it well, squeezes around the outside, but New Zealand are right on their tail.
So a match race at the top through gate number 4 on to leg number 5. Canada and New Zealand out there. France is having a great showing here in race number 1. Remember, this is the first race of 3 today, but it's all about getting the points.
Oh, Todd, sorry to interrupt, but New Zealand, that's short. What a move by Peter Burling there. He's making it too complicated. They did not need to do that tack. Penalty, right of way with France.
This is the umpires. Penalty New Zealand, relative France. Penalty New Zealand, relative France.
Oh, you gotta wonder what they were thinking on board that Kiwi boat, because they had everything looking so good.
They just rushed it, Todd. That was too many manoeuvres in too short a space of time there. We see on board in the bottom right-hand corner there, New Zealand, he tried to do a turn at the bottom mark, straight into another turn out of the upwind leg, and just got the boat slow, gave the opportunity to De La Pierre, and he's going to have to drop back behind the French to clear that penalty. He's big mistake by Burling there. Too rushed.
So he's going to go from 1st to 3rd as he will drop behind Canada and France, who holds down 3rd place right now. Pete Burling yet to burn that penalty. So on paper, it is Canada in the lead, just barely ahead of France. And Stevie, coming into this first race, if I'd have told you Canada and France would be out in front, battling away and pulling away from everyone else, would you be surprised?
Certainly not be surprised with the performance of the Canadians. And French, to be fair, they've looked really good, just not had the consistency. Right now, Burling must drop behind the French.
And here's the numbers. Look at France, 100% fly time. That's not something we often see from the French. They seem to be pulling it together, closing the gap with the Canadians as well, who are still dominating speed-wise.
This is leg 5 of 7 in race number 1. 2 more races still to go. Great speed, perfect conditions here in the beautiful Plymouth Sound.
Really tight. This is a real test of speed here. The French boat looks fast. De La Pierre, he can set up to tack when he wants to, and Canada must keep clear. It's going to be one more manoeuvre before this top gate, and it's a drag race.
Canada the closest to us. France on the outside. This is going to be key, Stevie, on this next leg that they don't make any mistakes.
There's no margin for error now, Todd. Foiling turn there from the Canadian boat. Nice job. The crew runs across the boat. French, slower to tack. They're right on that yellow ley line. No more manoeuvres required for the French, but I think the Canadians can get there cleanly as well, and it's going to then set the Canadians up very well. Just 2 more legs to go after this turning mark, Todd, and it's going to only be a couple of minutes. I think it might be too late for the French, but only one mistake away.
All about gaining as many points as possible in these first 3 races, and then tomorrow it's only the top 3 boats that'll make it into the final. So as they come into gate number 5, it is Canada in the lead, France in 2nd, New Zealand in 3rd, Switzerland moving up to 4th, and Great Britain, the host nation, sits in 5th.
Split tack at the top. I'm surprised the French have done that. That's an aggressive move at this point in the race. trying to split away, trying to find more wind, but is that the right call? Opens the door and it's tight behind. Great Britain, Switzerland, the battle for 4th and 5th is really tight. Ainslie on a charge and he's found a way past the Swiss.
So Ainslie will go to the other side of the course, and Switzerland looks like they're going to follow them as well. So Great Britain picks up a position ahead of the Swiss and Sebastian Schneider. So it's 4 and 5 now for Great Britain and Switzerland. So leg number 6, so it is down here, and then the long reach to the finish line. They'll go through that last gate, Stevie, take a left, and then it's the shot straight over to the hoe.
Should be pretty easy here for the Canadians. They just need to get this next turn correct. One more manoeuvre. We're going to look for Chris Draper and Isabelle Bertard at the back there to set up. There they go. They're running across the boat. This is the cue for their last manoeuvre. Can they execute it well? Top of screen, France, 70 kilometres an hour nearly. France has the right of way. This could be a great move by de la Pierre. Izzy ahead. It's going to be tight when the two boats come together.
It's been an impressive performance by Canada here, but you have to give it to the French and the Kiwis, who didn't have the best start, made it to Mark 1, 4th and 7th respectively, and have moved up into the top 3.
Here we go, big moment coming here. Let's watch this. France has the right of way. Does Phil Robertson think he can get ahead? No, he doesn't. That's the voice of Phil Robertson coming up to dip behind. He must keep clear. Now, are they lined up for the next gate? France sets up for a turn. It's going to be really tight at the bottom. Has Robertson judged this correctly?
So the Canadians have dropped back to 2nd momentarily, but do they make up for it? Here we go.
He's got to squeeze down to the gate.
Oh, it's going to be close.
Expect 2 turns here from the Canadians. France must keep clear. France has to give him room. There goes de la Pierre. Late reactions. This opens the door for Burling. New Zealand will have an opportunity here. Look at the speed. Going nearly 3 times the speed on board New Zealand. It's going to be a sprint across to the finish.
How quick can they get back up on the foils? Canada looks like they're there. Their speed now approaching 50 kilometers an hour, but the Kiwis are already at 60.
What a moment. My favourite now, surely Canada. They should be able to sail fast from here, but de la Pierre, he had to see that coming. He opened the door for New Zealand, and Burling, well, he's made a mistake earlier in the race, but he makes up for it here, and it's now a sprint to the fan. Look at the fans on the shore there.
1 boat length separates them in race number 1, and as they come to the line, it will be the Canadians that take the win here in Plymouth as New Zealand comes from 3rd to grab 2nd.
Oh, what a finish there. What a finish. That was so tight. And it's Ben Ainslie back up to 4th. De la Pierre holds on to 3rd. Ainslie from nowhere into 4th. What a finish. One mistake at the end, Todd, and it's all opens up.
It all came down to that last turn, and France had to give way as Switzerland will come into 5th place. Good result for them to start things off. Australia with a really close to a disastrous start for them. Near the back of the pack, they've salvaged something as they get 6th, and Spain will come in to 7th place, which leaves Denmark and the USA still out on the water. For Jimmy Spithill, this is going to be a head scratcher because they had such a great start, the best we've seen from them all weekend long, and they will take dead last in 9th.
Pretty tight action there, Todd, and we can see in these gusty, changeable winds, it's a really open race course and there's a lot happening.
Over 70 kilometers an hour as the Americans come through to wrap up race number 1. It is official now with Canada, New Zealand, and France going 1, 2, and 3 to open things up here at the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix in Plymouth in Britain's Ocean City, the 3rd event, and the debrief begins for the Americans. Let's take a look at the final results for race number 1. An exciting finish down to the wire, but it's Phil Robertson in Canada, SailGP, that get the win and the 10 points. Then it's New Zealand that sneak in and grab 2nd. France had a great race. They will finish in 3rd, just ahead of the host nation of Great Britain. Switzerland, Australia, Spain, Denmark, and the USA round it out.
And we have to take a look at this final gate. After a little tussle between Canada and France, they left the door open for the Kiwis to slingshot through round that mark, take advantage of France being slow speed and shooting through into 2nd place there.
Look at those speeds, Stevie, as they come up, tipping over 70 kilometers an hour, and I thought Pete Burling might get him, but Phil Robertson holds on.
Well, Phil Robertson, 2-time world match race champion, and that was a very clever move by him at the bottom of the course. but we've seen plenty of action and really a key moment, especially for the USA. Look, they're on port tack. They must keep clear of the French. It's a last-minute decision. I don't think they saw it early enough, and what a bad jibe by them. They fall off the foils. Look at the speeds on the top of the mast. Down to 20 kilometers an hour, 2 hulls in the water, and really, that moment there, second to last in the blink of an eye, the American woes continue, and if they weren't nervous before, they will be now.
What a way to start the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix in Plymouth, race number 1 in the books.
These are called FPV drones. So there's no gimbal on them, we're just hard mounting the camera. Gives quite a free, as if you were flying like a bird feeling. And then I put a headset on, pilot from the point of view of the camera on board. So we're putting the red Komodo on right now, which is a pretty nice camera. It shoots in 6K, which is great, so we could do a lot of cool tricks in editing. Try and perhaps go under the boats, maybe with the GoPro, we'll see. Did a couple flights on the Komodo, got some hopefully nice beauty shots, and then took out the GoPro to do the first under the boat shot to get a feel for it. Worked out pretty well. I'm feeling good about that, and the shot looked amazing. I think that's a lot more intimate, aggressive, and fun than the traditional beauty shots, so I think we might do a couple more under the boat shots here. Today, the first thing we're trying to do is a big pass on Navy Pier, where 4 boats at once scrape by really closely. Flight time is super limited, so we have to be quite precise and tactical with how we utilize it, and then just pick up as much as we can and safely make it back before we run out of battery. I was able to get pretty aggressive during the actual races. We got some really cool stuff. Gonna go decompress, see, review the footage and start piecing together a little edit from our adventure.
Yeah, copy.
Look how they dress, looking at them. Would it be worthwhile to just sit down? Show your face, you're the party girl.
Yeah, we're just gonna get a quick copy of that.
Oh.
Well, here in Plymouth and throughout Season 3 of SailGP, we are looking to the athletes and sailors of the future, and we do that through the Inspire program as the Wasps take to the Sound and put their abilities on display, Emily.
This weekend, we have 2 Irish sailors, 2 Dutch, and 12 young sailors from the UK. These sailors have come from all over the country, from Plymouth locals all the way up to Rutland Water and further north. Some are fresh from competing at the UK Wasps Nationals a couple weeks ago, and while for others, this is their first time foiling. And what a day for it. They are fully foiling conditions, and the start line is only meters away from the F50 course. Epic.
Great to give them an opportunity out here on this world-class venue in front of massive crowds here up on the Hoe as we are under 6.5 minutes to go until race number 2. And everyone's still buzzing about the finish that came right to the line between Canada and New Zealand. And what a great job by Phil Robertson and Canada SailGP from the start to the finish. They dropped back a couple times, but in the end, they were able to make that maneuver happen and hold off one of the greats in Pete Burling and New Zealand. We are now able to go on board with the Canadians and talk with Phil Robertson. Phil, what a race and what a start to this weekend. Tell me about the start of the race and how you had so much speed coming on that outside.
Yeah, I guess it kind of set up for us. We were probably one of the first ones in, and we thought there might be a bit of a gap at the boat, and it presented itself with about 30 seconds to go. So the trick is just not to be late then, no, not to be early, sorry, and yeah, obviously straight over the top of everyone with a bit more speed, and the race becomes a lot easier when you're in that position at Mark 1.
From the start to the finish, Phil, what did you think when you saw France take the lead and then you saw New Zealand Pete Burling bearing down on you on that last reach?
Yeah, it didn't really set up that well for us. We probably made a little mistake. You need pretty big balls when you're leading on a race course like this to pull off some big manoeuvres when you're in front and put the boat where it doesn't naturally want to be. So, yeah, probably a bit more of that next time we're in front, but yeah, got another race now and it all resets.
Phil, thanks for your time. We'll see you in race 2.
Well, I'm seeing a few things out here. First of all, with those southwesterly breezes, there's a huge wind shadow under Drake's Island. So if you fall off the foils at the bottom of the course, like we saw the Americans do, or the French in that tight little tackle with the Canadians, it's almost impossible to get back up on the foils. Secondly, I've noticed that Peter Burling and his Kiwi team always love being on the opposite side of the racetrack to everybody else. So I'm not sure if that's an instinct from the match racing days, but it is an interesting thing that I have observed. So I'm not sure it's really an open course out here. I think the Canadians did a really good job of keeping it simple, staying in that open water. So I'm expecting teams to prioritise that right turn, but we're just going to have to wait and see what is in store for race 2.
All right, thank you, Lisa. As we come up on 4 minutes to go, the Aussies didn't have the best result there as they finished in 6th overall, but I'll tell you what, there's still a lot to play for as we're now 4 minutes under until the next race. And Emily, I'll tell you, there's a lot of data to compress here and a lot of numbers to think about and do it in a quick amount of time because you got to get ready for the next race.
While the Australians might not have been dominating on the racecourse, their manoeuvres still seem to be superior than a lot of the others. Great Britain not far behind. Here we're looking at the minimum manoeuvre speeds. This is the bottom speed when the boats turn, and this is crucial to a good manoeuvre. A lower minimum speed means it's going to take longer to accelerate, which means, and more time at low speed means results in more distance lost. This can be for a number of reasons, whether it's the low entry speed or how long it takes to drop the boards when the boats are turning. Your stability going into the maneuver is also crucial. Big for the flight controller.
Well, there's so much data to be analyzed and shared after each race in SailGP, but for casual fans or first-time viewers of the greatest race on water, the ladder lines provide a basic understanding of each boat's relation to each other out on the water, and what a perfect setting for all that here in the Plymouth Sound.
Our computer-generated graphics are seen on the F50s as well as on broadcasts to define the boundaries of the course, as well as the ladder lines covering whole legs. 100 meters apart, the ladder lets us measure each boat's progress up and down the course, who is ahead and behind, the gaps between boats, the distance sailed from the last gate, and still to sail to the next gate.
So final preparations being made now as we get set for race number 2, the second race of 3 on the day, under 2 minutes to go. And Stevie, there's not a whole lot of time to decompress or to evaluate what you did right or wrong because you're going to get right back at it. But for the Canadians, how do you match what you did in race number 1?
I think stick to the routine. A lot of these crews, any high-class team really, it's about routine, it's about consistency of performance. They'll know their timing. 1 minute 38 seconds to go. We think they're in a kind of casual cruise eating their sandwiches. They're not. They're very much into their timing for the pre-start. Now we can see in the middle left of our screen, Canada, they're on their run. I'm sure they'll know our timing worked well last time, our strategy worked well last time, we executed it. Let's just go out and do that again. We've not got to do anything special, got to do the same again. Unfortunately, everyone else has learned what to do as well.
All the data is shared here at SailGP, and with a minute 11 to go until the start of race number 2, how quickly can you learn? And for the Americans and Jimmy Speedhill, they're certainly going to want to avoid that area that Lisa Darmanin talked about where there is no wind. 1 minute to the start of race number 2. Reminder, the last race was won by Canada. New Zealand finished in 2nd. France finished in 3rd.
Here we go, lining up 50 seconds to go. Spanish out the back. We've got some news from the first race. There was a collision off the screen between Great Britain and Spain will be awarded 4 penalty points at the end of this race. So that's a real setback to the Spanish. Can't have any collisions out there. If you cause it, you're going to get a problem and get in trouble with it. Now, 30 seconds to go. Ainslie, top right-hand side of screen on the British boat, spins in late. New Zealand, bottom of our screen. They're in that same position as the Canadians were last time, but they're all a lot closer to the line here. They're very, very close to the line. Is there going to be room in here? Jimmy Spittle, brilliant start in race 1, good control, and Phil Robertson, big change of plan, dives down low, late at the bottom end of the line. It's all about timing now. When the line turns white, the race begins. Watching the screen closely, here comes Burling on New Zealand. How's your timing? White line means go, and it's good to go. Fast angle here. New Zealand should be fast in from here. Watch the speeds at the top of the mast. Once again, Canada and Phil Robertson poking out down the line, but it's now a sprint to Mark 1.
Not only with a new crew member in Joe Allais, but a new sponsor is Alvaria. Welcome to SailGP, and it is Pete Burling and the Kiwis off to a great start here in race number 2. Canada's there as well, and the Americans once again in good position at mark number 1. Can they make it pay off this time?
Brilliant work by Phil Robertson again. Last minute change of plan, ended up at completely the other end of the start line, but back of the fleet again. Ben Ainslie struggling with his starting today. They need a rethink as they set up for the first manoeuvre on the boundary.
France, Australia, Switzerland, and Spain the first to turn away. Canada has the lead. New Zealand in second. The Americans go wide.
Oh, Todd, that's a penalty on both those boats for the boundary. The USA, another unforced error. They need to drop back 20 metres relative to the other boats. That's going to be so costly for America. Let's see if it can be salvaged by Burling. Look at Australia, top of speed. They found a gust of wind, speed on the top of the mast, 70 kilometres an hour from 7th up to 3rd, potentially, even 2nd for Australia. Slingsby, wow, look at the boat speed on the Australian. That's the voice of Phil Robertson. He wants a left turn. Perfectly set for the left turn, though, is Slingsby. It's going to be tight as they come in here. How have the Australians done that?
Building a bit of cage here. Edging off. On his line. Early tack up here, okay? 3, 2.
Listening to Phil Robertson here, talking about his plan. Has to cede way to the Australians. Burling splits the course, and we expect an early tack from the Canadians and Phil Robertson. Who's made the right choice, Burling or Slingsby?
Ooh, once again, the Americans get very high out of the water, as do the Swiss. And look at the Swiss heeling that over, almost putting it on its side.
It's busy at the bottom of the course, and when you rush these manoeuvres, Todd, we can see a lot of the boats, Spain and Switzerland, both fell off the foils. If you fall off the foils, you're slow. Not off the foils, New Zealand, look at the speed. 52 kilometres an hour heading upwind. It's going to be looking good for them.
So it's Australia in the lead, Canada in second, New Zealand in third, then it's France in fourth, Denmark. The USA has moved up to 6th place. Tough going there on board New Zealand as Pete Burling spins it around, then they make the changeover. So Australia out in front, Canada just off to their left, and here comes the Kiwis in 4th place with France in the mix again.
And here we've got the live speeds in kilometres an hour, miles per hour, and for the sailors, we've got knots as well. So here you can see Australia dominating once again speed-wise, 57 kilometres an hour, Canadians 56.
If we look at your screen here, you can see the top of the screen, the water, the screen looks darker. Well, that's a gust of wind. The Australians have found that gust of wind. If you've got more wind, you're just able to sail the boat faster, and it's about putting that together. Last race, it was all about staying away from Drake's Island. Slingsby went straight to it that time. Great game.
And Stevie, you talked about the collision that we saw, did not see off camera, excuse me, Spain and Great Britain getting together, the 4 points for the damage. Now, that will not affect today, but it will be in the overall, so that's something to keep an eye on as it gets closer going away.
That points tally will be added to them as the series progresses, yes, so big error, big costly mistake for them. But Tom Slingsby and his Australian crew, well, he's found an awesome little route up this leg, keeping the boat fast, and there, Delapierre, he has the right of way. Canada and Phil Robertson, they look like they're behind anyway, but he's going to have to stay behind. The French are on fire so far.
Quentin Delapierre, the skipper of the French squad. Remember, they finished in 3rd place in the last race. You're trying to get as many top places so that you can be in the big final. That's coming up tomorrow, the last race of the day. Only the top 3 boats will make it in there, and there you can do some real damage to move your way up the overall standings, which are right now being dominated by Australia, who've won the first 2 events.
Slingsby there, he's talking about a huge righty, saying the wind has turned to the right, so that means it's turning him away from the mark. But New Zealand, top of screen, that's good news for them. New Zealand almost sailing directly up the ladder lines. Big gain coming for Burling.
So there's the turn for the Australians. They maintain first place. New Zealand now moves into second, France in third. Canada's dropped back to fourth, and here comes the Americans. Jimmy Spithill with a nice recovery now moving up to fifth.
Here we go. Tight at the top. Australia, they were brilliant at the bottom of the leg. Peter Burling, brilliant at the top of the leg. It's going to be tight here. The French, Jimmy Spithill on the inside. He has the right of way, but he's very, very slow. Can he sneak round? I think he's got himself in the race. But look, it's tight between Canada and France.
Australia, New Zealand, France, and Canada, your top four as they make their way through gate 3.
Todd, look at the left-hand side of the screen there. 9th place GBR. That's not what the fans on Plymouth Hoe are going to want to see. Ainslie needs to find something, and he needs to find something quick. We're halfway through race 2 here. There's not a lot of opportunity left.
Well, you can't win the regatta on day number 1, but we've seen it before, Stevie. You can certainly throw away your chances of getting to the big final on day number 1. And it seems like in the past you've been able to have one bad race, maybe a 7th, 8th, or a 9th, but then you have to come back with some top 3 finishes, all the others.
Yeah, I mean, the Australians have shown us that.
The Australians dominating still with the fastest boat speed, but the Kiwis are closing that gap by doing less maneuvers. That's crucial out on the water because it makes you sail less distance.
Oh, there we go. Crowds on the shore. They're great to see. They won't like seeing Ben Ainslie at the back of the fleet and the British crew. Maybe we need a big cheer from the crowds on the Hoe to help him down this next leg. But yeah, Burling, well, he overcomplicated race 1. If he's minimising manoeuvres, that tells me he's learnt his lesson, keeping it a bit simpler.
And this may be one of the greatest venues to watch this kind of racing because the Plymouth Sound is spectacular and they are stretched all the way around. So into gate number 4, it is still the 2-time defending champions. Tom Slingsby in Australia out in front. The Kiwis sitting in second place with their new team member and new sponsor. And now we've got a tight crossing as France comes into view and looks like they're going to have to force the Canadians to dip behind.
They haven't. Jimmy Spithill, here we go. The Americans up to speed. They're back in the race. And it just shows how changeable it was. Last race, Lisa was telling us everyone wanted to turn right, sail away from Drake's Island. This rate, they're all... Oh, no! Look at it! Too high, lost control of the boat. What a moment. Jimmy Spithill swings round inside. This is going to be disastrous. Boat's full of water. They need to drain the water to build the speed to be able to foil again. This is going to be hugely costly for the Canadians. Top of screen, no mistakes from Australia and New Zealand, and they're in a match race to the finish.
And you were just saying how things can turn on a dime here. So the team that won the first race puts the nose in and fills it up with water, and look at them. They are dropping back and they are now in dead last. Let's look at this again. What happened, Stevie?
Here we go. We're on board. We can see here we're crossing the boat for the roundup. It's the exchange between Phil Robertson and Billy Gooderham of the flight control. They get too high. These foils are designed to be in the water, not out the water. Flew out of the air, and we see Jimmy Spithill, not one to miss an opportunity. Drives past.
So the Americans now up to 4th. It's Australia, New Zealand running away with it, with France still in the distance in 3rd place.
Well, they're doing a great job. Look on the screen now. I think Ben Ainslie and Great Britain, they're up to 5th. Maybe the crowd on the Hoe have cheered them through. Who knows? But yes, brilliant work by these first 2 boats. They're gone down the road here. It's going to be a match race to the finish for this race, but it's the French in 3rd place again. Contant de la Pierre seems to have found out the formula for the Sound right now. Consistency's key, and they're doing a great job on the French boat right now.
This is like 5 of 7. You can see just how close they are. Canada sitting in dead last. The winners of race number 1, they will go through the next gate, then down, then the left-hand turn to the finish line, and the race will be over.
How costly is that one little mistake?
So Phil Robertson and the Canadians were sitting, what, at 2nd place on that, and now they find themselves in 9th. And this late in the race, Stevie, I think they'll be lucky if they can get in the top 7.
Absolutely. Here we go. Australia, that yellow ley line. Look at France. They've sailed another great upwind leg here. The French on the ley line in 3rd.
Australia, New Zealand, France, Denmark in 4th. Great Britain now up to 5th place. The hometown team, the Americans, dropping back to 6th.
We're seeing some impressive speeds here from France and Denmark, closing that gap. 100% fly time for France. Denmark slightly less. You know, we expect that 100% fly time from the Aussies. They're consistent.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. New Zealand in second. Ainslie has a chance to take the Danish off the course. I'm sure he'll make the most of that. Could see Great Britain up to fourth here. And Burling in second. Could be 2 seconds here. There you go, Ainslie. He's pushed Denmark all the way off the course. Now he has the right of way for this turn. He's very, very slow on the British boat. Great tactical sailing by Ainslie from last to fourth in 1 lap.
See them trying to build the pressure back up so they can get back up on the foils, but they do take the position away from Denmark. So Great Britain from 9th to 4th place. It's still Australia, New Zealand out in front, separated by a mere 100 meters right now. So as you said, Stevie, it's a match race between those two great sailing nations. You've got the 2-time defending champions and Tom Slingsby in Australia, and then you have the man that's won the America's Cup the last 2 times right off his left-hand side.
There you go, centre of screen, that's Jason Waterhouse flying the boat there, trying to push things hard down here. The higher you can get the boat out of the water, the faster you go, and look at the speed of the Australian boat.
So impressive, going from 7th at Mark 1 to 1st. Huge gains by them. Same for the Kiwis.
Yep.
Not the greatest, well, they had a good start, but it wasn't the best. And
they've been consistent, and then France is another team that's moved up from 6th to 3rd. So there you go, Australia, New Zealand, France, Denmark, Great Britain, USA now in 6th, Switzerland in 7th, Spain in 8th, and then Canada after that incident, which may be the move or unmove of the match. We'll focus on that momentarily. They sit in 9th place. So it's a left-hand turn, and now it's a glory run as Australia will make the sprint down to the finish line.
Wow, and there you go. We can see flight wing trimmer there, Kyle Langford. It's his birthday. Could be a birthday bullet for Langford here in front of the crowds. He'll love that. The crowds will love that, I'm sure. Maybe we can sing him happy birthday as he comes into the finish there for race 2, and Australia, great victory. 2 second places for New Zealand, though. We've criticised them for lacking consistency. They've brought in Joe Allais on the back, 2-time Olympic medalist. Seems to be a bit of consistency out there, Todd.
So the Aussies claim race number 2 with the Kiwis in 2nd. France with a well-earned 3rd place, their 2nd of the day.
Ainslie, that's a good move by the British boat. They're up to 4th. Popular move with the fans, a really good comeback for the British boat. Could have been a disastrous race here, but a 4th place finish, that's a counter, and everyone on the host seems to be enjoying that.
Denmark will finish in 5th.
It's not a dig, it's just I'm trying to talk to Paco as well. It's just like...
And the Americans will take 6th, 1 spot ahead of the Swiss.
Results going to be pretty tight in the pack, but I think that mistake by the Canadians at the bottom of the course, let's see how much they come to rue that when we get to the end of the day, because points are going to be so tight in this shifty weather, you just can't afford mistakes, and well, that was a big one.
First to last for the Canadians. New Zealand stays consistent to 2nd place, and it is the big winner, Australia, who will back up a 6th place performance for them, as Canada now will come in. And Stevie, is that any damage I'm seeing on the right side of the screen underneath, or is that something that's fixed?
Yeah, that's a fairing. That's a splashboard, so that the water can spray up off the foils, can get in the eyes of the sailors. Not a disaster.
All right, let's take a look at the race 2 results. Australia gets the win. New Zealand and France rounding out the top 3. Great Britain with a good finish in front of the home crowds in 4th. Then it's Denmark, the USA up and down the ladder all race long. Switzerland, Spain, and Canada had their issues.
And here's that moment where the Canadians really just threw it all away. Heartbreaking for them. Costly error as they ploughed into the water and let the USA team into the inside. Just a split second and they've damaged that front fairing, which, while it's not serious enough to stop them racing, it is enough to slow them down, which is very costly in racing like this, where it's neck and neck all the time.
Well, as Stevie said, it all changes in a moment. Canada was having a great race to back up their win in race number 1, and then it all went south. One team that's been very consistent, they have finished 3rd both races, so they are certainly got themselves a position possibly in the big final, and that's France SailGP. Quentin Delapierre, we go on board with him, and Quentin, take us through that race. Your consistency today has been spectacular out there. Contan, it's Todd Harris, Stevie Morris, and Emily Nagel. Just wondering if you could take us through that race and how you guys are so consistent on the first 2 races here in Plymouth.
I'm really happy with the start. I think it's a good start in Plymouth here for us. I think the ley line are really important here with the last race. We've got a huge ride, so the first ley line was really quick. And I mean, the guys on board did a really good job, so I'm able to rep. That's the most important.
Let's talk about this next race, the 3rd and final race of the day. This is going to be important for points going into Sunday. Any changes that you'll make from what you've done in races 1 and 2?
Yeah, I think we can be a little bit on the first ley line, and it would be good if we that in the next race.
Contan, it's lovely to speak to you in English, but how big a difference is Kevin Pepinay making coming on board as the new wing trimmer and able to speak French on the boat? Is that a big advantage?
Yeah, sure it is. I mean, he's got a really good relationship with Brian, so the relationship between flight control is really important. So I think we make a huge step by having Kevin with us.
Nice, well, you're sailing very well. I hope you can keep the consistency going. Contan, bon chance, au revoir.
Go. You guys all right? Fine.
The new flight controller, Hans Henken, he's in replacing the injured Rome Kirby, who's unfortunately out for this event. Well, Hans is a really academic guy. He has a Stanford University master's degree.
It's great because jumping on this boat on the F50, it just makes it really easy to understand all the systems. You know, the way the boat works, the way the engineering works. It's just, I think that gives me an upper hand.
He comes at it with a different approach.
They finished the first race of the day second to last. I hope I'm wrong, but I just feel pressure is mounting on them. The leaders turn away. The USA are out the back. They set up. Campbell James first down to leeward. There goes the board. Look at the boat here. It's flying high. It's flying too high. They're going to lose control. Here it goes now. They've done it wrong. Crash.
The Americans are very soon going to be laughed after this terrible manoeuvre.
Hi guys, again.
As the board's going into the water, you know, if I give it too much lift, boat's gonna come out of the water too high and it won't get all soaking wet.
So as soon as the boat starts launching, he needs to stop it from flying. He needs to get that pepper grinder, get the boat under control while the boat's turning, hope the guys behind him are doing the right thing, but you know, there's so much going on. You've got to account for the wind and his head's down. So yeah, it's super complicated, and trying to learn that in racing is almost impossible.
Every point counts, and I decided to push as hard as I could.
This is the battle for last place. This is not where the Americans want to be in their home event. They've got to push it really hard to try and beat the French. On board with them there. They're flying pretty high there. They're over the French. They crash down just on the finish line, and the French roll over the top. That is last place.
Right, boys, you got to regroup here, right? Go.
Off to a great start at the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix, Plymouth, Britain's Ocean City. Perfect sailing conditions and a massive crowd out on the waters. We are now 6.5 minutes away from the 3rd and final race of the day. Well, for Britain's Ocean City, innovative developments are the next chapter in a maritime history which spans hundreds of years. Plymouth was the starting point for the iconic voyages of explorers such as Sir Francis Drake and Charles Darwin, and in the present day, the city is forging a new path. For example, in the protected National Marine Park of Plymouth Sound, seagrass meadows are being planted to capture the carbon, and advanced seabed mapping is taking place to protect the ocean that we call our racetrack. And what better for a demonstration of the new than up on the Hoe, where the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix in partnership with the Greco will for the first time in its history be powered almost entirely using solar energy and biomethanol fuel. A first for any live sailing event. The solar array in its ideal location is generating enough energy in a single day to supply an average household for almost 4 weeks, and a biofuel generator will power the race village. And to avoid using traditional generators, battery storage will supply power to the hospitality and broadcast areas. All this will allow the entire race village to be 100% powered by clean energy, helping to make the most sustainable on-water event ever. And the fans enjoying the beautiful day here in Plymouth as we are now at 5 minutes to go for the third and final race of the day. Remember, 2 more races tomorrow until the big final, and that will be just the top 3 boats. We go on board now with Great Britain Sir Ben Ainslie and his squad looking to bounce back. Ben, you had a solid performance in race number 1, finishing 4th, and you back it up in race number 2. What do you guys need to do to capture the momentum heading into Sunday?
We need to get up the start line a little bit better than we had. We had a bit of a crash with the Spanish on the first start, and then that last one, Canadians just came right in at the last minute and stole our spot. So we had you know, two starts where we were struggling and had to fight back through the fleet. So yeah, hopefully we can get her off the line a bit better in this next one and have a good race. But it's awesome to be out here, great conditions, good crowd, and try to put it on for the home crowd this final race.
Ben, appreciate your time. Good luck to you. Four minutes to go and the repairs are frantically underway. Stevie, tell me exactly what they're doing here.
Well, they've got the quick repair tape out there by the look of it. That's just a fairing, it's aero, so it's nothing structural, it's not the end of the world. But obviously if you've got things flapping around in the breeze, that's drag. Drag makes you slow. So these are high performance racing boats, and they just got to keep it as clean as possible. You can see here they come into the leeward mark. The acceleration when you turn up just caused the boat to fly so high they submerged it, and as I say, it's fairing, it's not structural, so it does break easily. Look, leap out of the water, loses control, and yeah, it's nothing disastrous, but for sure the Canadians want that boat as streamlined and as fast as possible.
Yeah, they take on hundreds of pounds of water, and it's like dropping anchor, so they finish in dead last in race number 2. All right, so with that in mind, here's the points right now. It is New Zealand by virtue of 2 second places that sit atop with 18. France in second with 16, and Australia in third. Now, that's important because the top 3 teams will race in the big final on Sunday. Great Britain just 1 point out. Still hope left, though, for Canada, Switzerland, Denmark, USA really on the cusp, and then for Jordi Chamar and Spain, really almost all hope is lost for them to make the big final.
So we know in that last race that Australia were the fastest, averaging 58 kilometers an hour around the course. But what's really interesting is looking at the foiling efficiency. So this is how stable the boats are when they're up in the foils. And the Kiwis actually dominated that. 89.7% on foil stability, France not far behind, and the Brits just after them, which explains how they got from last up into 4th.
All right, we're getting set for the third and final race of the day. Before we do that, let's check in one more time with Lisa Darmana down on the water. Lisa, you've been spot on your reports. I think everyone in the fleet's been listening to you.
Well, it is a bit of a different day out here from when the boats first got on the water. The clouds have come over from the right and pulled the wind around, which we saw in the last race, but it's made the wind quite unstable and streaky. And what I mean by that is there's more erratic gusts of wind, and so more opportunity for the teams to spot those bursts of winds and find a faster path around the racetrack. So starting is definitely important, but there are some overtaking lanes today. We definitely saw that with Ben Ainslie. Let's see if he can get off the start and give those crowds something to cheer for.
Question, 90 seconds to go now until the start of the third and final race. Stevie, the conditions look to be about the same as what Lisa's told us, but everyone now getting into that start box, getting the position right.
Well, I think what I heard mostly there from Lisa was gusty, streaky wind.
Yeah.
If I put my sailor's hat on, that means I need my head out of the boat. That means my strategist at the back of the boat is going to be crucial. Joe Allais on board the back of the New Zealand boat. We've got Lucy Copeland, Youth Worlds medalist, at the back of the Australian boat. These strategists are having to make the big calls and get them right.
1 minute to go to the third and final race today, and Stevie, this is really the moving moment. This is where you have to pick up the points. If you're a USA, if you're a Spain, Switzerland, you've got to get a big win in this race to catapult yourself, because the points are at a premium. And tomorrow, remember, there's just 2 races to add points to your account.
I think for the teams at the back, it's roll the dice time. You've got to take the risk. If you're not in it at the end of this, you've got a problem. An interesting one. Ben Ainslie said we can't get off the start line. Can't get off the start line. Well, here he comes. He's late onto screen with 30 seconds to go, tacking. He's now going to be the predator. He's the one coming from behind, looking for the gaps. Will there be a gap? That's the question. Top of the line, Canada. Phil Robertson's going to like what he sees up here. Plenty of space for a good position. Australia and Great Britain, they look out of position to me. I think Ainslie's not going to get a good start from there. It's going to be Canada and New Zealand at the top of the line. They're going to come through with a lot of speed. New Zealand looking for a hole in the middle. Here goes Burling. Watch for the line to turn white. It's going to be fast and furious towards Mark 1. How's your timing, Peter Burling? Clear start. Whoa.
Money.
That was the money. And it's a sprint now. It's going to be New Zealand and Canada first and second again.
This is the umpires. Penalty France, relative Australia. Windward boat not keeping clear.
So the penalty going the way of the French, not affecting the 2 out in front. And once again, they'll duel it on this mark number 1. Look at New Zealand. Look at Canada coming in hot.
Big penalty for France, so they have to drop behind New Zealand, Australia, sorry, because it was a boat-on-boat one. It could be expensive for them as the boats turn, accelerate hard away from Mark 1, and we know they're already setting up for gate number 2 as New Zealand first to jibe, followed by Canada, and those turns were executed perfectly. New Zealand look well set to head straight to gate 2 from here.
Better start for the Americans. France still with that penalty to absolve. It is New Zealand, Canada going 1 and 2. The Americans positioned perfectly. Switzerland on the outside. They've got some good win there, but Australia and Denmark and Great Britain out the back.
French still have this penalty. I'm not sure if they've heard. They need to drop behind Australia. The longer they wait, the worse it gets. Okay, penalty clear. They've got rid of it now. Now they're racing. And New Zealand, look, parallel to that yellow line. No more manoeuvres required for Canada and New Zealand to make it to gate 2.
Well, you don't have to be a mathematician to figure this out. New Zealand is certainly sailing faster than everyone else as they approach gate number 2, Emily.
Look at the speeds on the top 3 boats there. 66, 67 kilometers an hour from the Kiwis, stretching their legs away from that little group behind them.
Gets chaotic down here at the bottom as they make their way now onto leg number 3 of 7. This is the last race of the day, and for teams like the USA, for teams like Spain, anyone that has hopes of getting into that final, Stevie, they've got to be in the top 3 today.
I think so. I mean, I think it's a big moment. I'm looking at that leaderboard. Australia 7th, France 8th, GBR 9th. Now, those were the 3 of the top 4 boats before this race. They need to make a move in the next 10 minutes.
Great Britain sitting in 9th place. Moments ago, we talked to Ben Ainslie. He talked about the start, unable to execute that here in this race, but he has been good at working magic halfway through.
Here we go, Switzerland, Seb Schneider, he looks to tack. Now, Australia has the right of way. Has the Swiss team judged it well? Yes, they have. Clear cross there, but it's going to be space for Australia. And when they have space, we know they're fast. Top of the screen, though, going really fast right now. Peter Burling, Blair Tuke, Joe Allais on the back. The brains trust on that New Zealand boat.
Top right's looking pretty good too, with like a compression on the shore.
There you go, that's Pete, that voice of Blair Tuke, sorry, he's got his head out the boat. He's talking about more wind on the shoreline there. It's being squeezed like a funnel, giving a bit more wind. If you can find more wind, that's going to make you go faster.
New Zealand with the lead, leg 3 of 7, Canada in 2nd place. After those minor repairs being made, they look no worse for the wear. The Americans sitting in 3rd, Spain in 4th, and Switzerland up to 5th.
Probably knocking on the way back.
It's the voice of Peter Burling. They're just constantly talking. We can see the arrows on the screen there, shows the direction. We're sailing up the course, they're sailing into the wind, zigzagging their way up there, choosing the best angle they can sail relative to the wind to progress up these ladder lines as fast as possible. Tight in the pack though, Todd, look at that. Top of our screen, we've got what? 6 boats. You could just throw a blanket over them and it's going to be one manoeuvre that could be costly or definitive on the charge through.
So New Zealand looking, if they could walk away with a victory here, that would give them a 1st and 2 seconds, which would almost assure them a spot in the final. Remember, the top 3 move on for the last race of the day to battle it out.
Nice job with the commentator's curse there, Todd. Lovely stuff. I'm sure the Kiwis will be glad to hear that. But yeah, it's very calm on board. That was the voice of Joe Allais saying, no one on our window, no one to watch out for.
The Kiwis stretching their legs again here. 100% fly time with Canadians, 99%. 1 kilometre an hour average, slower but not too far behind. We've got this big group up on the top of the screen there coming in, which could make it interesting here for the Canadians.
Switzerland, Australia, and France, the top 3 that Emily's referring to, and now here comes some crossing, and there is going to be some tight traffic. Look at this. Everyone making sure who has the right of way, no collisions.
Key here, Todd, is how can I keep my boat going fast in this chaos? Jimmy Spittle's done a great job on board the US. They've really found some good boat speed and managed to wiggle through here. It's so tight. I anticipate this next gate, the near gate, as being super critical for the race. It's going to get very, very tight.
And Burling decides at the last minute he's going to go back to the other side of the course, so obviously seeing something over there, more pressure. So Kiwis take the lead and they hold on to it at gate number 3. The Americans in 2nd, France moves up to 3rd.
Pretty easy for the Kiwis here, but here you go, Jimmy Spittle round. Now it's tight now. On the 3rd position, it's Canada. They look like they've got a little gap through, but Australia will have the right to turn left at the top here if they want to. Are Canada safely around? Yes, they are in 3rd place. Australians, though, from the back of the pack up to 4th again. Harry Houdini, Tom Slingsby pulls it out of the bag. De La Pierre spins the boat fast. Can he get back up on the foils? Could be another place for Australia up to 4th. As the Rockwell Denmark team, they move through into 5th place. It's so tight in the pack. It's going to be meters that matter now.
Tight quarters. New Zealand now out in front. The USA sits behind them, and there they are pulling away. Canada now into 3rd place. I tell you, this would be just what the doctor ordered if the Americans could finish in the top 2, but it is all Kiwi all the time.
Todd, we've waited a year for this. We've waited a year for the Peter Burling and Blair Tuke that we're used to. And well, they've made some big changes at the back of the boat. And at the moment, we're seeing some serious results for that as they are streaking ahead, 300 meters ahead of the 2nd place Canadian boat. Phil Robertson, what a great job of getting themselves back on track on that Canadian boat. No Georgia Llewellyn of France on the back, but Isabella Berthold clearly doing a good job in that strategist role as well, because once again, we've rarely seen the Canadian boat out of position. And in fact, there you go. Place gained relative to Australia. Nice move. Look at the pack. Top left of screen. Coming in there. This is an opportunity for Ainslie to get back in the race, as the Americans have clearly had a mistake in a manoeuvre. They fell off the foils in a jibe and they've dropped back. Disaster again for the Americans. These mistakes can't continue to happen.
So the Americans go from 2nd to 8th place in the length of less than 1 leg. It is New Zealand way out in front. Canada now into 2nd place, with Australia moving up to 3rd. Never count out Mr. Slingsby.
It's just like Harry Houdini out there. He seems to find a way through the field. Moses splitting the Red Sea. I don't know what the story would be, but he's doing such a good job. But Burling and the New Zealand boat is clinical, and when you're this far ahead, you've got the time, you've got the space to do good manoeuvres. Centre of screen, this is going to be action as we come into the gate here. Ainslie about to jibe. He will have the right of way on the British boat here. The French need to keep clear.
Canada through gate number 4 cleanly. They hold on to 2nd place. And now the chaos will begin. Who's going to go where? Who's going to split away? It's Australia and Tom Slingsby in 3rd. They're around safely as well.
Great Britain have fallen off the foils in that manoeuvre, though. They've left the door open for the boats behind. De La Pierre, he's in the pack, but he's still hanging himself in there well. The Spanish crew back in the match. And this is the final upwind leg now. Just an upwind and a downwind, and then a sprint to the finish.
Great Britain drops back to 7th place, so Ben Ainslie will look for some speed here on this leg. You see the wind holding around 19 kilometers an hour. New Zealand seems to be finding it. I don't know if it's the new paint job, the new sponsor, or what, but Pete Burling and company are doing a fantastic job here in Plymouth. Alvarium, welcome aboard.
And here we can see why the US have dropped back, 94% fly time. We couldn't see it on the screen, but clearly they had a bad maneuver, dropped off the foils and dropped from that 2nd place all the way to the back. crucial here to keep up on the foils and going fast.
Look at that, an absolute masterclass from the Kiwis at the moment. They are down the road on board that New Zealand boat. Boat flying so nice and high out the water. You see it's lent towards the sailors. That helps get more efficient angle into the boat. It makes the boat and the foils perform more powerfully, more efficiently, and that's going to give them more boat speed.
Nice and calm on board the Kiwi boat. Canada in second, Australia moving into third, France in fourth, Denmark holding on in fifth. Great Britain is now slid into sixth place with Switzerland, Spain, and the USA bringing up the rear. So to Stevie's point, this is leg 5. They'll go around one more gate, then down, and then it's the left of the finish line, and that will put a wrap on today's racing. But then we will start crunching the numbers. And right now, Stevie, you got to say, New Zealand, unless something disastrous happens, they're going to walk away with a second, and a first, and they're going to be firmly in control.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a lovely job today, and that's what they've lacked, is that consistency. It's been their hamstring, really, let's be honest. But they need to make a final. They look calm on board there. Joe Allais at the back of the boat, head out the boat, looking around. Peter Burling, well, he's won everything, hasn't he? But he's not won anything in SailGP just yet. So they'll be knowing this is an important moment for them. It was 10 years ago in London with a silver medal in the 49er class that they announced themselves in the world sailing at the top of the pile. Well, maybe this is where they announced themselves in SailGP.
Staying calm on board the comms, the boat slicing through the Plymouth Sound. Their maneuvers have been clean and crisp throughout. The addition of Joe Allais, it is all seeming to come together for the Kiwis here on day number 1. Remember, 2 more fleet races tomorrow before the final, and that's just the top 3 boats. And it looks like New Zealand will most certainly be one of those top 3 boats.
All sounds very, look at the acceleration on board the boat there, straight into angle, lean the boat on top of them, gain themselves more righting moment, more power in that big wing sail there. It just, the more power you can generate, it's more horsepower, like in a car, the more horsepower you can generate, the faster you go.
So New Zealand through cleanly, and then it's everyone else. Denmark now has moved up to second place with Australia in third. France is dropping back to fifth. Canada going to fourth. The Americans making a slight push up out of ninth into seventh. Those points can matter. And then it's Switzerland and Spain. Great Britain sitting in the middle of the fleet. Nothing spectacular right now, as we got a nice crossing there as Australia has to dip behind Canada. And here comes Denmark in second.
Denmark are allowed to turn inside, but Canada will be faster when they exit the mark. Seherstedt has done a masterful job up this leg, and what a good manoeuvre by the Danish crew. Really hard manoeuvre. They executed that turn so well. Third place for Canada. Australia, he just does not go away on board that Australian boat. Right in the fight, and it's a sprint now. Final downwind leg, just 2 or 3 minutes of this race left. Any mistake now will be disastrous, but New Zealand,
look at that.
They could probably make a couple of mistakes and they're still going to be in good shape from there.
They could row it home. At 64 kilometers an hour, they are more than 500 meters ahead of the rest of the fleet, on their way to a certain victory here in race number 3, which will give them a second, and a first. And then it is Denmark, Canada, and Australia right now battling out for who will finish in the top 3 here in the third and final race of the day. A beautiful setting here in Plymouth on the Sound as the Ho is packed with fans, and Great Britain are trying to find themselves some more points. Stevie, it's so key. I mean, a 5th is so much better than a 6th. A 4th is so much better than a 5th.
Every point counts. When it gets to the end of this, there's only going to be a point in it between making the final and not. And yeah, every place matters. You've got to keep doing the right thing. Keep doing the right thing. Ainslie knows that. He's won more than anyone else out there, so he'll be doing those simple things. But Peter Burling, wow.
We've seen plenty of close crosses in this race, which has seen that scoreboard mix it up so much. The Danish going from 7th to 2nd, the Brits going from last up to 6th, while the Kiwis, they're just showing off out the front, coming in now to that finish line.
Yeah, look how smooth that is, just foiling perfect level as they come through. It is New Zealand that will take the win in race number 3, and they will take hold of the overall leaderboard here at the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix Plymouth. And what an honor to be able to fly past the Ho with all the fans that have turned out.
There is quite a lot of people up there, Pete. That's right. There's a lot of people out for SailGP, and a brilliant job for Nikolai Seherstedt. It almost looked like a football stadium, Plymouth Ho, right there, full of the spectators. Great view of the racing, and wow, long way behind New Zealand, but 7th to 2nd. This could be a regatta-defining race for the Danish crew. Big gains. They're going to come way up the leaderboard with this recovery.
Yeah, no question about it. Denmark finished 8th in the first race. They came back and finished 5th in the second race, and now a second place in race number 3. So that will certainly help their cause in trying to make the final on Sunday. And then it is Canada coming through. So the Canadians a little bit up and down, but again, after that little bit of damage in race number 2 where they finished in 9th place, a nice rebound. As a lot of people say, it's not what you do in the tragic moments, it's what you do afterwards, and a nice rebound, a nice recovery by Phil Robertson, the Canadians.
It is Tom Slingsby in 4th on the Australian boat. Consistent day, but keep saying that, don't we? Quentin de la Pierre, the French, 5th place. Solid day for the French crew. They were right in the pack in that race, never quite managed to get out. Ainslie probably keeps his hopes alive.
Right.
Just, they've managed to dig themselves out. Pretty easy debrief for the British. Get off the start line.
So a 4-4 and a 6 for them. The 7th place is being held down by the Americans, and not the result they were looking for when they were sitting in 2nd place at one point in this race.
Yeah, a lot more promising signs with the starting for the Americans here. They put themselves in a position at Mark 1, but still some manoeuvres. That downwind leg, they went from 2nd all the way back to 8th with one bad manoeuvre, fell off the foils. Young Swiss crew, well, tough day for them, but I'm sure they'll be learning lots. Nathan Outridge, well, he was with us in the commentary booth last time. He's probably got a big night ahead of him. There was a lot of learnings to be found. This young Spanish crew bringing it home night. To me, that's disappointing. Yesterday in practice, they looked really good, but today, the manoeuvres aren't sticking. The gusty, changeable conditions is really testing everyone's skill.
So the fans here with near perfect weather conditions treated to a great opening for the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix in Plymouth at Britain's Ocean City, hosted the 3rd event of season 3. And on day number 1, you have to say it belongs to the Kiwis. Blair Tuke, Peter Burling, Joe Allais, the rest of the crew doing a fantastic job being consistent throughout. A 2nd place, and then they win race number 3 to carry that momentum into Sunday, and a lot of points to boot. So the debrief will begin, Stevie. If you're New Zealand, there's not a whole lot you have to do, because look at these points. 28 points on told. Australia sits in 2nd with 22, tied with France also on 22.
Yeah, 28 out of 30 is a pretty good day at the office, I'd have said. There's they're in the box seat now, 8 points ahead. Absolutely fantastic. So
Canada, Canada, Great Britain, Denmark, Switzerland, and the USA mired down at the bottom, just ahead of Spain, who is in last. Now on board with New Zealand SailGP, Peter Burling. Peter, congratulations on a great day. The consistency was there. You guys came out looking so good, a second, and then wrap up the day with a 1st. What was the key today? Were you guys just more in sync than you have been in the past?
Yeah, you can hear me there, right?
Yes, sir.
It was obviously a really fun day sailing in Plymouth, and it's just amazing after that finish to see how many people are up on the hoe there. On the grass cheering us on, and it was great for us to be able to execute a few things well. Obviously plenty to still go and work on tonight, but I'm really happy to get out of a first day with that many points.
Pete, give us a smile, mate. You got 28 out of 30 points out there on the water. That was a pretty clinical race. What were the changes you've made here to suddenly sort of crack the code to this racing?
You guys in the commentary booth love the crack the code terminology, don't you? But, you know, we obviously battled back a fair bit in that first race. You know, we picked a few good shifts there, and kind of when things weren't going our way, minimised the damage, and it was great to get back to a 2nd in that one, and then the last 2 were a little bit more straightforward. Obviously that last one's quite nice to get such a good start, and then get to Mark 1 in such good shape. Makes life pretty easy for you.
Thanks so much, Pete. Good luck. We'll see you tomorrow. Well, the crowd's now packing up and getting ready for what will be a great day tomorrow. As Stevie put it right, 28 points out of 30. New Zealand with a dominant performance today on day number 1. The question is, can they carry that over until day number 2 and walk away with their first title in SailGP, winning the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix here in Plymouth? A lot of people will be talking about this overnight. Emily, what do you do next?
Well, here we go. The Start of race 3 here. We can see the starts are often crucial, and the British there, look how late they are back here. Timing was off already. 30 seconds to go, and they're only just turning, which just a bit too late. Ainslie said they were struggling with the starting in there. We can see they're out the back. Interestingly, so much of the fleet were bunched down the line. They're all so close to that bottom end of the line there in the middle of our screen. They're scrapping for that. There's just not a lot of wind in that area, and they're all at a really tight angle. New Zealand, Canada give themselves some space. They've got a long straight run in, no one near them, no one challenging them, and then with 10 seconds to go, well, I don't imagine that Peter Burling can believe his luck. He accelerates the boat. It's now doing nearly 60 kilometers an hour. Look at the line there. Timing absolutely spot on, but doing nearly 3 times the speed of the rest of the fleet.
So it'll be an easy debrief for the Kiwis for tomorrow. Do exactly what we did today, because they dominated with 2 second place and winning that 3rd race with a 1st. So 28 points out of 30 for them. They are clearly out in front. For everyone else, it'll be scrambling for those last 2 spots in the big final, and we'll see how it all plays out. What teams they'll roll out tomorrow. Will they be desperate, Stevie? Will they play it conservative? I know Great Britain would certainly like to be in the big final here in home waters.
Yeah, I think the British, that's a very simple debrief for them as well. They need to get off that start line. I think the interesting ones are the Australians, sailing so well through the fleet. It's going to be really, really tight tomorrow.
All right, before we say goodbye, let's check in one more time down on the water with Lisa Darmanin.
Well, from here, each of those races just looked so different. It probably wasn't as windy as we were first anticipating. It really died out in the end, but the Kiwis definitely made the most of that. We're expecting more of the same on Sunday's racing, with the winds around 22 kilometres per hour, gusting up to 31 kilometres per hour. But with a bit of rain, and those clouds will still wreak havoc with the stability of the wind. So they're going to have to be looking on the water, but also into the sky to find the best path around the racetrack. It's not going to be a simple day, but a hard day proves the best sailors, and should make for a very exciting final to find out who wins the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix.
All right, thank you, Lisa, for all your intel throughout the day. Great stuff. Wow, what a day of racing, and what a way to start off this great regatta here in Plymouth.
Well, yeah, I mean, we saw it was so tight. There was a lot of teams at the front of the fleet, but consistently it was the New Zealand crew that kept the speed up in the tight situations and found those gaps.
It was a brilliant day for lead changes, constantly teams overtaking one another, a lot of close calls, and all about threading the needle through the gaps.
It's one thing that never changes, though, with SailGP, is if you can execute that last 10 seconds before the start well to lead and get that first decision when you are arriving at the boundary here, as Canada and New Zealand did so well today, the whole game becomes really, really easy. Get around gate 2 quickly and you're in good shape, but mistakes count. We see there changes in speed. Look at the fairings falling off the boat there. That's just big mistake, big costly moment. Tom Slingsby kept himself in the match all day, but I think there's one team going home happy tonight, really, really happy, and that's New Zealand. They finally arrived at SailGP with the bang that we expected, and yeah, going to sleep well tonight, I'd imagine.
So a lot to think about, a lot to decompress, a lot of info to share with that 3rd and final race. Talk about the exclamation point that was the Kiwis. I mean, it was just a dominant performance.
But my boat to watch today, or for tomorrow, is the French. We've not seen them really have their moment of glory before, but they're starting to become more and more consistent. 2 third-place finishes for them today, and in that 3rd race, they got a penalty, which was really costly, especially because they took so long to drop back. That meant they didn't have much chance to get back ahead. So tomorrow, we're looking for more consistency, trying to be a bit safer, avoid the penalties, and we could see them in the final.
Yeah, France with a 3, 3, and a 5 on day number 1, so certainly something to build on. Well, tomorrow we start again, same time. You will see race number 4. We'll kick things off at about 2:14 local time, and then it'll be race 5, and then they'll crunch the numbers and figure out who are the top 3 to get into the big final. Everyone looking to claim that top prize here in Plymouth. Be a great day, Mother Nature providing the goods as the race is on. On behalf of Emily Nagel, Lisa Darmanin, Stevie Morrison, I'm Todd Harris. We say goodbye for now. We'll see you tomorrow for day 2 of the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix from Plymouth, from Britain's Ocean City. Until then, so long, everybody. Welcome to Plymouth in Britain's Ocean City. Welcome to the greatest race on water.
What a start by Spithill. Short water, move by Peter Burling. It's going to be a sprint across to the finish.
It will be the Canadians that take the...
They're all for race 2 in Australia. Great victory. Going to be fast and furious towards Mark 1.
New Zealand that will take the win in race number 3 at the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix Plymouth.